Think you want to be an architect? Not sure how to become one? In this episode, I discuss not only how to get clarity about your target role, but how to identify what it takes to get you there. If you want to advance to the next level, keep listening.
Do you want a career in networking but aren't sure where to start? Are you struggling to take your career to the next level but aren't sure the path? Welcome to Cyber Job Hacks, the podcast that gives you the strategies you need to launch and grow a successful career in network engineering. Hosted by Dr. Jeff Colburn, a solutions architect with over 30 years of experience designing and implementing large-scale networks. Each episode is built around one of the three core pillars of becoming a next-level engineer: developing deep technical knowledge, applying design best practices, and understanding technology decisions. Let's get started.
Hey, it's Jeff. Welcome to this episode of the Cyber Job Hacks podcast. Last time, we talked about the reasons engineers get stuck and why they don't advance. If you missed it, I suggest you go back and give it a listen. But one of the reasons I mentioned was not a lack of effort, but a lack of clarity. What is that ideal role, or what I call your target role? What is it that you want to do? What do you see yourself doing? What do you enjoy doing? And it's really hard to hit that target when we can't see it. So that brings in clarity. So we think about that CAPE framework. We start off with clarity. And how do we get that clarity? Well, as I mentioned before, I really like Ken Coleman's approach. He talks about talent, passion, and mission. Talent, what do you do best? Passion, what do you love to do? And mission, what results matter the most to you? So that kind of gives you that clarity. This is that ideal role. This is that target role that I want. This is where I want my career to progress towards. That's great. That gives you that vision of what you want to be doing in the future. However, there's something else that you have to be clear about. So let's just say you determine you're good at engineering. You love to engineer. You feel most accomplished when you see something you engineered, implemented. So you probably see yourself as a network architect. If not, that's okay. A lot of what I'm going to say applies to any other role. But, for this episode, we're going to use network architect as an example. So there's this other part of clarity. So you have the clarity, you want to become an architect. But what does it actually require to become an architect, right? You have to become clear about that. You want to be an architect, but what does it take to become an architect? So there has to be this shift in how you approach your role, because this part of clarity is going to flow right into alignment, because you're going to determine what it takes versus where you currently are or what you currently have. And these are those technologies and experience gaps. But first, we have to become clear about what they are. So, in alignment, you're going to kind of assess where you are today and where you need to be. But first, you need to become clear on where you need to be, both with technology and experience. So if you remember, the three pillars I mentioned is, deep technical knowledge, design best practice, and technology selection rationale, right? So to become an architect, your focus shifts away from configuration and troubleshooting to design and decision-making. You shift away from that narrow picture to the broader picture. And what I mean is, you're no longer focused on that small part of the network that you might be changing or troubleshooting. Now you have to take that more holistic view of the network and consider the overall impact of your design. What might be the upstream or downstream effect of your design? How might it impact the efficiency, the resiliency, or even the scalability? Have you considered the growth of the network in your design? You start thinking in terms of requirements, both business and technical. What this boils down to is that the difference is not more knowledge, it's a different way of thinking. So how is your today's study leading you in this direction? What deep technical knowledge does this role require? What core technologies do you need to know? And have you been studying those? Or are you studying the wrong stuff, right? This is that clarity. You can't study everything. It's impossible for you to know everything. So you have to identify what you need to know for this specific role. And once you have them identified, you'll use this information in the alignment phase of that CAPE framework. What is the technology gap between what I know and what I need to know? If you want to be a network architect, you will need to include not only how these technologies work, but how to design with them, right? That next pillar, design best practices. Again, when you hit the alignment phase, you need to determine what knowledge or experience you have designing with each technology. You may know OSPF, you know how to design with it, but you might have little to no knowledge or experience with EVPN VXLAN. So you have a greater technology and experience gap with VXLAN than you do with OSPF. Then you'll need to understand the trade-offs for each technology. When would I pick this technology over another? This is where decision-making comes into play. In the past, you may have been handed things to implement without explanation. However, in a design role, you have to justify your design decisions. People will question them. They'll ask why you didn't select something, especially if it's something that they believe is a better solution. You have to explain the reason your selection is the stronger choice and the potential drawbacks to their choice. I recently had to do this. A customer believed that a new technology would solve an issue that they were experiencing. I presented an alternative solution that would resolve their issue, and I had to explain the reasons this new technology would not. Right? This is that life of an architect. You have that deep understanding of technologies, you know how to design with them, and then you have that ability to explain and defend your design decisions. This is going to influence your study and proximity plan. Now, remember, it takes more than knowledge to reach an advanced level. You need experience. So clarity influences that proximity phase of the CAPE framework. What experience do you need for this role? What people do you need to know who can help you get there? You have to position yourself for the role. And this means being in proximity. If you want to be a design engineer, how do you get around other design engineers? Where are you today? Experience is great, but are you building the right experience? Who are you interacting with today? Are you moving in the right circles? Surrounding yourself with a bunch of ops engineers is not going to open doors for design roles. So this takes clarity. What is my target role? What do I need to know for this target role? What experience do I need for this target role? Where do I need to be? And who do I need to know? Clarity is critical for the alignment and proximity phases. Without it, you're going to continue to study the wrong stuff. You're going to remain in the wrong role and be around the wrong people. Remember, it takes luck to land that target role. It's not going to fall in your lap. And luck equals preparedness plus opportunity. The more prepared you are, the luckier you are. So you might say, hey, Jeff, well, this sounds great. I know how to study technology, but how do I learn design best practices? And how do I learn the trade-offs between technology choices? Well, there's a few ways to learn design best practices. The best is getting around solid design engineers. Remember, just because they're design engineers doesn't mean they're good. So if you can join design discussions, can I sit in a design discussion? Can I listen in, right? Then when you're there, you'll hear the design engineer or the architect explain their design decisions. You'll learn how they capture and prioritize requirements. So if you can't get this in person, right, if you can't get around these people locally, then link up with them. Some of these people may be posting things that are useful. Another approach is to study design scenarios and validated design guides. They also show you how to build out or how to design with a certain technology. Now, the only warning with design guides is you want to focus on open standard designs. Some vendors will use design guides to kind of push you towards a more proprietary solution. You don't want that. You don't want to focus on proprietary. You want to learn open standard designs. So if you use these validated design guides, make sure you're focused on open standards and not anything proprietary. Another thing you can do is you can look at the network you work on today, and you can start asking yourself questions like, why did they do it this way? Why did they design it this way? What else may have they done? Right? Or is there a better technology approach than what they used? Your network today might not be the best designed. So you could use this as an opportunity to evaluate what's in place today and start asking some of these design questions like, oh, what would have been better? What could I have implemented? what's missing, right? Somebody might have turned on BGP and they just could be advertising everything and receiving everything instead of actually controlling the routes in and out, right? So it's like you could catch design flaws by going through this exercise. So you shift from this focus on how to configure it to why the design is the way that it is. For example, say there's VXLAN, and why didn't they use MPLS? Right? If you're using LDP today, say you're using LDP across MPLS, what could be the benefits of moving to segment routing? Right? You start looking at technology and you consider its pros and cons. What do I gain by using this technology? What do I lose? It's no more, how do I configure it? That starts to become secondary. Often that becomes the job of the implementation engineers. Like myself, I still love testing things in a lab, but configuring devices is no longer my job. So get clear about the role you want and what it's going to take to get it. You must do this before you move into alignment and proximity. If you need help, let me know. I offer a cohort where we work through the CAPE framework. You can get the details in the show notes. Until next time, I hope you found this useful. Get that clarity. What is that ideal or target role? What is it going to require? What experience do I need? Who do I need to be around? I can't stress it enough. Don't spin your wheels out there. Get clear about what you want to do. That's the only way you're going to get there. You got to have clarity. And then you can start putting that plan together. You can start going through alignment to determine the gaps, where you are today versus where you need to be, and then who you need to be around, where you need to be, right? That's proximity. And then you execute, right? That's CAPE. So I hope you found this useful. Until next time, have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Cyber Job Hacks, the podcast for next-level engineers. If you found this episode helpful, be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss future episodes on how to take your career to that next level.